this might actually be your future dinner. That's because right now, globally, meat agriculture is being vilified for causing too much climate change, for using up too much land, for using up too much water, and so on and so forth. And as a part of the green agenda to fix all these meat-related problems, well, policies are being implemented across the entirety of the world, which are effectively handcuffing farmers and sometimes even completely crippling the farmers' operations. However, you might be wondering, if all of these meat and dairy and cattle farmers are put out of business in order to save the planet, what exactly are people going to eat? Where are people going to get their source of protein from? Well, fear not. That is exactly where insect farming comes in. For the past 10 or so years now, international organizations like the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the European Union, and so on and so forth have been working relentlessly to push forward and to normalize the edible insect industry, which might help to explain why, seemingly all of a sudden, we're seeing all sorts of celebrities endorsing insect food, we're seeing media outlets across the world normalizing edible bugs, and we're even starting to see children have insects be introduced into their school lunch programs. However, in order to explain how we got to this point, let's start at the very beginning. 10 years ago, all the way back in the year 2013, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, they released this report right here titled Edible Insects, Prospects for Food and Feed Security. Now, this report of theirs, it outlined how there are going to be too many people on this planet in the near future and that the current model of meat production will not be adequate to feed them all. Here's specifically how the report began. Quote, "It is widely accepted that by 2050, the world will host 9 billion people. To accommodate this number, current food production will need to almost double. Land is scarce, and expanding the area devoted to farming is rarely a viable or sustainable option. Oceans are overfished, and climate change and related water shortages could have profound implications for food production. To meet the food and nutrition challenges of today, there are nearly 1 billion chronically hungry people worldwide, and tomorrow, what we eat and how we produce it needs to be reevaluated. Inefficiencies need to be rectified and food waste reduced. We need to find new ways of growing food." And of course, given the fact that this report is titled Edible Insects, you kind of see where they're going with this. Quote, "Edible insects have always been a part of human diets. But in some societies, there is a degree of distaste for their consumption. Insects offer a significant opportunity to merge traditional knowledge and modern science in both developed and developing countries." Now, this UN report, again, published 10 full years ago, well, it's now considered, in retrospect, one of the foundational documents in this effort to bring insect eating into mainstream Western culture. And just as a fun fact, in this UN report, there are some possible solutions to getting over people's resistance in the West to eating bugs. Here's what they wrote on this front, again, 10 full years ago. Quote, "Among the strategies to be considered for developing effective communication strategies for governments, international agencies, the private sector, and NGOs are tailoring messages for different audiences, identifying incentives for using insects as food, using success stories and best practices/experiences to promote the consumption of insects, involving local media to raise awareness, creating a communication toolkit on the importance of and opportunities for insects as food and feed, and seeking endorsements from celebrities to improve the credibility of the sector." It's kind of amazing to read this in retrospect, knowing how 10 years from when this was written, well, we have media outlets and celebrities across the whole world indeed pushing for the eating of insects. It's always fascinating to see how many of these grassroots campaigns that we see on television and on social media can be traced back to some sort of a centralized plan at the international level.